So, I have been having the most difficult time of giving my thoughts on The Last of Us Episode 2. The first time, I didn't hit the record button when I actually wanted to talk about it. So, although that was like the perfect recording that I've had so far, I didn't actually record it. So, there's no video footage of me saying for like 10 minutes all of my thoughts about the episode. Then, the second take that I did, I didn't really like it. Then, the third take that I did, I had to go get my mail. So, this is the fourth time we're doing this. Hopefully, this one sticks. So, The Last of Us Episode 2. I'm going to be giving my thoughts on it as I did with the first episode. I'll be talking about every single episode of this season of The Last of Us. And if you are someone that cares about spoilers, please leave so you do not get spoiled, which sucks because I could use the views. However, if you are someone that's seen the show, played the game, or you just want to hear people's thoughts about it, because I've definitely fallen into that last category before, enjoy and welcome. So, The Last of Us Episode 2 was another phenomenal episode. Again, as I mentioned, the show has been surprising me at the fact that it's genuinely good. I wasn't expecting anything from it. All of the trailers just made me want to play the game more than actually watch the show. But now seeing the finished product, it is really good. I am still skeptical of games like this being adapted because I feel like games that are heavily story driven are like the perfect presentation of their story in the video game medium, and trying to adapt them into a show, you kind of lose something with that. I'm still terrified about the God of War adaptation because I feel like God of War is on the same caliber of storytelling as The Last of Us, where it's a very heavy story driven game, so the story is implemented into the gameplay in a phenomenal way, and adapting it into a different medium is going to be extremely difficult, if not impossible. The Last of Us has been proving me wrong with this aspect. The people who worked on it very much cared about it, and they made it work for the screen, and I am very much enjoying that so far. And any Last of Us fan would tell you that they knew what was coming in episode 2 after the end of episode 1. It was the introduction of the most iconic enemy in the Last of Us franchise, the clickers. I have to say, the makeup artists that worked on them did a phenomenal job, and the actors that portrayed them did an amazing job. They just nailed bringing the clickers to life. Like, I was genuinely scared because it's one thing playing the game and they terrify you because you're playing the game and you want to survive, you don't want to die. It's another thing to watch the show and still feel the same level of fear because you know that this exists. This actually existed. This was a person. Someone put on a bunch of makeup and became a clicker. They made these sounds. They moved that way. It was genuinely terrifying, and I loved every second of it. That action set piece was fantastic. The only gripe I actually had for the set piece is like, Joel, come on, aim for the head, man. Did you learn nothing from Thanos? Like, you gotta aim for the head. Come on, we learned this already. This is a post-Infinity War timeline. You aim for the head. You gotta take him out that way. Like, the gamer in me that played The Last of Us was like screaming at the screen, like, dude, you gotta aim for the head. What is wrong with you? And then like the film watcher in me was just like, oh my god, this is so tense. I wonder how they're gonna survive, even though I know they're gonna survive. It was fantastic. I truly did love that. I love how Bella Ramsey, I remember your name this time because I remember in the last video I made, I didn't know your name, but now I do. Bella Ramsey, who plays Ellie, and Pedro Pascal, who plays Joel, have really truly made the characters their own, and I'm very happy that they feel like the characters from the game, but they do not feel different. Like, they still function as the characters from the games, but they are doing it in their own unique way. Same way I used in the last video, the example of how there are different characters that play there are different actors who play characters, like they voice them differently, like Kevin Conroy and Troy Baker, or Yuri Lowenthal and Neil Patrick Harris, which, if you didn't get that connection, they both voiced the character of Peter Parker Spider-Man at different times in their intervals, and they're both fantastic. But, or should I say, spectacular. Terrible jokes. But I do love their portrayals of Joel and Ellie. They are making them work very well, and it's awesome. I love the two of them in these roles, and I'm happy to continue watching the show and seeing them grow their familial bond as time goes on. Now that I've praised the episode a lot, I will get into a little bit of nitpicks, and I'll give it some more praise afterwards. So, one of the things that I didn't like about the show, that I guess I'll go with the praise first. One of the things I didn't like about the show is how they changed it from being a airborne virus that caused the cordyceps infestation, I guess that works, to infect the world, I guess infection would have been better rather than infestation. So the cordyceps infection to spread, they changed it from being airborne to being like fungal based, and it was in wheat, and people ate the wheat and became infected, and then it spread through people attacking and biting people, and now it's like the fungus spreads, and if you trigger one fungus, it causes a bunch of other infected to sense it, because that's how fungus operates. One thing can get triggered and then the whole fungus knows what's going on. I really did like that. It's more grounded in reality with how science works. It's scary because they do that, but on a personal note, I really liked the visuals of the spores from the game. I liked going through those set pieces because it's hard to see. It looks great. You don't know what's in there. You don't know what's coming at you, and it just makes everything more terrifying. I don't know if they're still going to have set pieces like that now that the virus isn't airborne anymore, but I really would like to see something like that, because like the fungus still spreads. You could have an area that's just like a bunch of infected have been trapped in there for so long, like the fungus has just spread so bad that like it's created spores. I'm stretching a bitch. I'm stretching a bit because that's how it worked in the game, but you could still have that same concept, I guess, but only time will tell. So on one hand, I'm praising it because I think they did a really good job with the way they changed it. It works really well and it feels great and it flows well with the story, and they do smart things with it. Like I mentioned, in the situation where they're trapped inside the Capitol building in the games, you're attacked by humans and you have to escape from there. But in the show, it's that Joel kills an infected, and that infected's death triggers a bunch of other infected because fungus is all connected to each other, and they come charging at the Capitol building. So they use the new rules to their advantage to make new scary scenes, and I very much like what they did with that. Now, my other nitpick that I have, since we're talking about the Capitol building, is the death of Tess. In the game, why can I not speak? Tess goes out in a blaze of glory, fighting for her life until she dies. And it's great. I loved it. It was an impactful way for that character to go. But in the show, she kind of dies, not kind of, she dies terrified. She's infected. An infected comes up to her and it kisses her, and it's like, it's really gross because like fungus is like coming out of its mouth, and it like kisses her, and the fungus is now in her mouth, and like the infection's spreading even worse, and it's like really gross, unnerving, and uncomfortable. And the shot of it is really cool. I really love what they did with it visually. It's a very impactful way to end the episode. But also at the same time, I just like the fact that Tess went out like a badass in the game, and I really would have preferred to see that on the big screen. So both interpretations are really good. I'm just more biased to what I experienced in the game because I think that was cooler. But I'm curious how you feel about it. Someone who's only seen the show, I'm curious if you would have wanted to see Tess go out in a blaze of glory, fighting these infected coming in a similar fashion to the way Tess fought the military storming the Capitol building in the game, or would you have preferred the scene to stay the same? And obviously, for people who've seen the show and played the game, I'm curious as to which one you prefer. Do you prefer Tess going out the way I did, or from the game, or do you like the new way that they did it in the show? I'm very curious to hear people's thoughts on it. The last thing that I really want to talk about is the whole thing with the flower and everything, right? I know I mentioned that briefly, but the beginning of the episode was a flashback showing that it started in Indonesia, that there was flour infected with the fungus, somebody got infected with it, they attacked their coworkers. By the time the military got involved, they don't know who the original offender was, and they've definitely infected more people. And they bring in a scientist who specializes in fungus, and she tells them that the only way to get rid of this is to bomb the whole city and kill everyone in it. And it's just a really deep and hard decision of a normal person being left with the decision of killing tons of people at the sake of trying to saving the world, which if you've played the game, you understand how this decision parallels what happens at the end. And I really like the fact that they're establishing normal people making decisions like this so early on in the show to deep root you into that kind of mindset for when you get to the finale of this season or the next season. I don't know how much of this season is going to cover what happens in the game. I don't know if the entire game is going to be made into this, because The Last of Us, as far as I know, is not a mini-series. It's just a show. So season 1 can either cover the entire first game, and then season 2 can cover the entire second game, or season 1 is going to end somewhere throughout the course of the first Last of Us game, and then we'll get a season 2 that covers the rest of it leading into, and that sound was my PlayStation because I left it on while I was recording anyway, and then another season would cover the other half of the game. I don't know how they're going to do it, but I'm curious to see how they do it. Preferably, I would prefer if they do it in 2 seasons because I'd rather them not try and overcrowd one season with too much story and then it starts to fumble as time goes on because they had to make cuts in certain places that they shouldn't have had to make cuts. But all in all, this episode was great. I really did love it. I'm happy that it's proving me wrong and that shows this deep rooted in storytelling in the game are able to be adapted into another medium that's working. Again, like I said earlier, I'm still skeptical about the God of War show. I don't know how that's going to turn out. But as for The Last of Us, it's working right now. We still have 7 episodes left. It can still fumble the bag, but I'm very hopeful that it's not going to. So I'm going to give my thoughts and probably just be positive about those 7 episodes in the future. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have a great day. I'm the Innocent Villain. You're innocent to prove villainous, and I'll catch you next time.